We are in the last book of the Bible story. See, volume 10 of by Arthur S Maxwell. And we are also in part 4 of this book. Okay. We have right here a painting by Jess Schlachter, 1957. And I'll show you the painting. Real pretty painting. Get another couple more seconds. Okay. The caption down at the bottom says, "In exile on Patmos, the beloved John was given a vision of the triumphs of the gospel message to that time when the New Jerusalem would come down from heaven come down from God from heaven." So apparently the part 4 really more covers the book of Revelation or Revelations. It's the last book of the New Testament, or all the Bibles that we have. It's supposed to be the last book. Okay, part 4, story 1, the voice behind you. Okay. For the first 40 years after the crucifixion of Jesus, the gospel of his love was carried far and wide by his faithful followers. Groups of Christians appeared in all the chief cities of the Roman Empire. Further and further the message spread until it had been preached to every creature under heaven. At last, many people refused to accept Jesus as their Savior. They didn't want him to change their lives. They would not give up their evil habits. Angrily, they turned against the Christians and hurt them in every way they could. By the year AD 90, all the apostles save John had been put to death, and he was in exile on the island of Patmos in the Mediterranean Sea. A lot of people don't know he was boiled alive in oil, and he lived through it. Not many people would say that, and especially with his kids stuff. So, I'm sorry, but I have to say, but he did not die. No, after he was boiled before he was even put on Patmos. Okay, let's get back to the story. Let's go across the years and visit him there. It is the Sabbath, the Lord's Day, and John is sitting on a rock, looking out across the wide blue sea. Oh, this almost sounds like that movie. Not a bit like the young fisherman. Not a bit like the young fisherman who had heard the call of Jesus by. Yeah, he was a young fisherman, so looking out to the sea. That's another reason why they kept him, because he was a fisherman. Okay. Not a bit like the young fisherman who once heard the call of Jesus by Galilee. He was now an old man, with a wrinkled face, gray hair, and a long gray beard. Alone, cut off from his friends, he is silently thinking about the past. What memories crowd his mind? The first moment he met Jesus, those kind, gentle eyes of the Master, his soft, loving voice, his earnest visitation, his earnest invitation, follow me. He recalls the years of the sweet companionship. What a wonderful friend Jesus had been. Truly the sweetest, noblest soul who ever lived. How tenderly he had ministered to the poor and needy. What joy and peace he had left in people's hearts wherever he went. It was hard to believe that some could have hated him enough to crucify him. Yet they did. They had. He remembers the trial of Jesus and the heartbreaking progression to Golgotha. The nails being driven through his hands and his feet. His gracious words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. His kindness towards the repentant thief. His last thought of his mother. Behold your mother, he had said, and John had cared for her the best that he could until her death. He pictures the resurrection. What a day that was. Could he ever forget running to the tomb with Peter and finding it empty? Oh, that thrilling moment when Jesus appeared to the disciples saying, Peace be unto you. Then it was that the glorious truth had dawned upon him that Jesus had indeed risen from the dead. After the Master had gone away to heaven, John can still see him rising higher and higher, further and further into a cloud, receiving him out of their sight. Acts 1:9, American version, or AV. He could still feel the loss and loneliness that came over him at that moment, and the upsurge of hope as the two men in white brought the comforting tidings. This Jesus who was taken up from you to heaven will come in the same way as you saw him go to heaven. 60 years had passed since then, and still the Master has not returned. Why? Could he have forgotten? It was a pity he has stayed away so long. John says to himself, so many things had gone wrong. James had been killed, so was Peter, so has Peter, crucified upside down some say. Paul had gone to beheaded outside the walls of Rome. All 12 of the disciples are in their graves except John, and he is but one short step from this. Yet Jesus has not come back. There is no word, no sign from heaven. Nothing but silence. 60 years of silence. Why? Why? Can there have been a mistake? Suddenly John hears a loud voice like a trumpet. He looks around, startled. And there, right behind him, he sees Jesus. There is and the image is very, very blurry. It's the way it's printed. But here's the illustration. It's an interesting illustration. I didn't see whose name, who painted it, but this is the illustration. All right, let me get back. Let me rewind. And there, right behind him, he sees Jesus. There is no doubt about it. It is. Though his hair is white as wool, white like wool, and white as snow. Well, I put the and in it, but it's not written that way. His eyes like flame of fire, his feet like burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of many waters. Yet in Yet it is the same dear face he knows so well. Overjoyed, John falls at his master's feet. Gently, Jesus puts his hand upon the old bent head, saying, "Fear not, I am the first and the last, and the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I have the keys of death and Hades. It, uh, it, as, it is as though he said, John, you are not the last of those who founded my church. I am. And as long as I live, my cause is not lost. Death may have taken Peter, James, and all the rest. Death may take you. Never mind. I am alive forevermore. I have the keys of death. Some day I shall open the graves of all who believe in me. I am the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. I was there at the beginning of the fight with evil. I shall be there at the end. The final victory will be mine. Hold fast your faith. I shall not fail you. Should you ever feel downhearted, should you ever think you are the only one left who stands for right and truth, listen like John for the voice behind you. For Jesus is never far away, and his voice, like the voice of a trumpet, will give you courage to go on. And then it has another painting, and of course it don't have the scars in the hands, and it has an older man bowing to their representation of Jesus, but they didn't have it with the white hair, because he's supposed to have white hair. And so this is the illustration. Okay, that is part 4, story 1. And like always, it's time for the break. And I'm going to break, and I'll see you in just a bit.